Hi there, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Watch by Ashley. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I'm really excited to talk about Cyberpunk Edgerunners. As you can probably tell, I'm a really big Cyberpunk fan. I love the franchise. I was really excited to play the game when it first came out. And like many of you, if you played the game, I was really disappointed that CD Projekt Red released an unfinished game. Like, that was such a drag. So I wasn't sure if I'd actually want to watch Edgerunners because I still was traumatized by that horrible experience. But you know what? To my surprise, CD Projekt Red actually released a 10 out of 10 web series. Cyberpunk Edgerunners checks all the boxes. It has great story, great music, a character arc that really gets you emotionally involved, and it actually accomplishes the near impossible. It leaves you really wanting more. And it actually makes me hopeful for the Cyberpunk franchise because honestly, if you asked me a year ago, I would have said that it was dead in the water and CD Projekt Red would have to come with a brand new IP completely, but this show actually may have saved it. And you can tell by the resurgence of players to the game that it's made an impact. Cyberpunk Edgerunners did so well that they've done an expansion pack for Cyberpunk 2077. Even Keanu Reeves has come back to lend his voice for Johnny Silverhand, which is super exciting. One of my secret hopes is that since they cast Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand, that there might be something live action. My hope is back alive since it's become a lot more popular. So we'll see what happens there. This isn't really my style of anime, but I do understand why they went in this direction because they're able to capture the grittiness of Night City and just that struggle to survive. I thought it was captured very well here. I know that some people aren't anime fans, so they might kind of turn their noses at it, but if you like storytelling and you want something different, this is definitely something you should check out. Just because it's animated doesn't mean it's for kids. This is a very mature television show. It's not for kids at all. It has very strong language, has some nudity, but it's very entertaining. So take that as a warning. If you haven't watched the series yet, I would say maybe pause the video here and come back later on because I do want to go into spoilers and talk about the characters in a bit more detail. So let's get into it. So first things first, poor David. Poor David Martinez. You know, we see his journey from the beginning to the end, and it's not just an origin story for him. It's also like a really sweet love story because he just gets you in all the feels, you know? And it was, honestly, it was almost like an honor to go on that journey with him, to see him as this high school kid who couldn't defend himself, is dirt poor, treated like crap, to end up becoming a legend in Night City and making a name for himself. That's the only way you can get notoriety in Night City, is through your death. And David had a legendary death, you know? He was just this little street kid and he ended up being able to take all that chrome in the Sandevistan and impress everybody. And I felt so bad for David because his life was just a continual story of sacrifice, you know? He sacrificed his desires by going to the Arasaka Academy for his mom. He sacrificed his morals by being in the gang with Maine and taking over the gang in his place. Like, that wasn't really what he wanted to do. It was just a promise that he was keeping up. He sacrificed himself for Lucy. He loved her so much. All he wanted to do was send her to the moon. So even though he probably could have and should have gave up the life of crime a lot earlier, he stayed in to keep that dream alive. And then he ended up giving up his life literally when he sacrificed himself with Adam Smasher so that Lucy could get away. And, you know, it was a roller coaster and I didn't want the ride to end. You know, when the series finished, I was first of all in shock that they did David dirty like that. And it just left me wanting more. Like, I want to see what else is going to happen to Lucy. Is she going to want revenge? Like, what else happens from here? I know that it's supposed to be a prequel to Cyberpunk 2077, but I'm very curious to see what CD Projekt Red is going to do from here on out. I know that they've discussed that they're going to continue with the IP in other ways with Netflix. So they haven't really specified if it's going to be a second season of Edgerunners or if it's going to be a completely new show. So I'm very curious. They've gotten me invested all over again. I almost want to forget that terrible video game release. But yeah, like, I really highly recommend the show. I think you'll enjoy it. Like, everything about it is actually pretty high quality. Like I said, and aside from the story, like, the music is awesome. Like, similar to how Cyberpunk 2077 had Never Fade Away as its main song, once you hear I Want to Stay at Your House, it's gonna catch you in the feels and you're gonna be listening to that song for a week. And in fact, I'll put a link to the song below so you can check it out. And even the voice acting, like some of the voices, when you hear it, they'll be very familiar to you. I really like the casting of Giancarlo Esposito as Faraday. He was an awesome villain. You couldn't help but hate him. He was so slimy. And I just love the fact that Giancarlo Esposito he has his hand in every pie. I mean, you've seen him in Mandalorian, you've seen him in The Boys, you've seen him in Far Cry. Like, I'm just waiting to see what he does next because he seems to be everywhere all at once. And I love it, so we'll see. One other thing I really did like about Cyberpunk Edgerunners is just kind of the themes that they explore. So they really illustrate a possible future, and I wouldn't even say, like, sure, it might be an extreme and it might seem very unattainable right now, but I wouldn't say it's out of reach. So one of the themes that I thought really was well expressed was this wealth divide between the corpos, people who worked for the big corporations like Arasaka or Militech, and the regular people who had to get like crappy jobs just trying to get by, and how a lot of them can't even afford rent, or they end up homeless, or they end up getting lots of augments to their bodies that they can't afford to upkeep, and their bodies end up rejecting it, they end up getting cyberpsychosis. And it's only if you're poor that these things happen to you, because if you're rich, you can get the best medical care, that people actually care about you, they want you to thrive, but it's only if you have money. And even if they can possibly save your life, they won't do it because you don't have money. And that kind of gave me a lot to think about, because even in today's society, in the West, and if you're in a developed country, you might be seeing more and more common is private healthcare. And that's to show you that if you have money and you're willing to pay it out of your own pocket instead of using government healthcare, you can get your ailments cured a lot faster or at a better quality versus someone who's taking public healthcare. And that just goes, again, to show you how much money can do for you. Another example here in the show was with David's mom when she had the accident. Because she didn't have the correct insurance package, the hospital let her die. And that seems very extreme and shocking in some ways. But if you think about it, it's not that far off. Even in the country that I live in, there's people complaining that they can't afford their cost of living, and so they're applying for applied suicide. And so that sounds dystopian, but that is something that is happening. I mean, it just goes to show you, if we let the wealth gap get larger and larger, people on the margins really do suffer. And it's illustrated beautifully here in the show. Overall, like I said, I think the show is stellar. I'd recommend it to anyone who's over 16, because like I said, it is a bit mature. But it's really great. It's fun. The pacing of the show is pretty good. There's a few episodes that are a bit slower, but it helps with that developing of that story arc, like I said. If you don't have any emotional investment in the show after watching it, I'd say you are a robot, because it's impossible. The show is just, it gets you really in the feels. I really loved it. So those are my thoughts in regards to Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a season 2 of Edgerunners, or if you think CD Projekt Red should go in a completely different direction. I mean, there are a lot of different angles and aspects of Night City that could be explored. So share your thoughts with me below. And if you like the content here, please give me a like and subscribe. This would help me grow the channel, and I'd really appreciate it. But that's all I have for you today. So until next time, please take care.